to completely destroy the enemy on the front line and bring back all their fighters without a single scratch. Military correspondents have shown exclusive footage of the Arey assault team's operation. The unit's command decided to avoid a frontal assault, instead effectively neutralizing and trapping the enemy using their digital command and control systems. How it happened in a joint report with Army TV.
For 6 hours, he continuously hears voices behind him. All right, raise the camera along that upper tree line.
Easy, easy now. Don't pull too hard. Just move it down like this, very slowly, very slowly.
The headquarters of the 253rd Separate Assault Regiment, Arey. A few kilometers away, a unique operation is underway right now. Fighters have reached enemy lines, but today in this fire duel, the AFU's main weapons will be intellect, technology, and tactics.
The guys are on the front line. The task is to clear the tree lines. We are working exclusively in the tree lines. It's an uninhabited area, and we are doing everything possible to preserve our personnel. We move in half squats with short dashes. Then the guys go in, enter on command, and we carry out the clearing operations.
The commander of the assault company, with the call sign Panda. He says that to reach the mission point, the infantrymen have to cover up to 4 kilometers in full gear and with ammunition.
Their task now is to follow their designated routes, secure strategic positions, and from there begin further targeting. This involves entry, movement, clearing, and taking up positions.
The operation is happening in real time. Every infantry step is precisely calculated.
We are waiting for the development of the forward edge to see where we should advance and assault next. The spotters heard some footsteps, unfamiliar voices. Let's go do some reconnaissance. Maybe there's a shelter nearby where the enemy is hiding and we'll need to eliminate them.
Aerial reconnaissance spotted the enemy. Next comes the inevitable end of the Russian occupier on Ukrainian soil.
Hey, lower it, lower it. No, look at the video screen. Bro, I need you to get a little closer. The sound is peeking out right now. Stay focused. They're closing in. Let the guys get in there. Of course, don't make peace right now, because this situation isn't settled yet. Oh yes, that's exactly it. That's perfect. It's just like starving for something more. That's it. We are pulling out of here now.
Today's operation is just part of the daily work of the Arey unit. The military says this tactic effectively reduces the number of Russian soldiers.
Yesterday's assault was successful. There are 13 officially confirmed Russian servicemen now. We did all of this blindly. There was a very thick fog, which we are currently waiting for. Now we want to consolidate our success and keep moving forward. We're waiting for the right weather conditions to make a breakthrough. My guys, the Simyezhny units did a great job here, where they liberated 3 settlements. I won't name which ones right now.
In stark contrast to Putin's invaders, for the Arey command, the highest priority is the life of a soldier, not territory, at any cost.
The enemy will not destroy himself. He will not simply perish by himself. We have to go, kill, push them out, and drive them from the entire country. But everyone needs to understand that this is war. Unfortunately, there may be losses, but we try to minimize them. Our guys don't even go on the assault when we see that there are various personnel losses.
Modern warfare isn't just about the number of shells. It's about speed, intelligence, and technological superiority. And the 253rd Arey Regiment has proven this once again. The Ukrainian army fights with intelligence. Ihor, I'd like to talk with you about the situation in the Pokrovsk and Kupiansk directions. Please tell us, as of right now, what their similarities are and in what ways they are different.
The key similarity between them is that the enemy simply does not stop its active assault operations. Whether in the Kupiansk area, in the Kharkiv region, or in the Donetsk direction, assaults are taking place on a daily basis, and that is exactly what makes them similar. The fundamental difference between these situations lies in several key factors. First of all, the enemy has moved into built-up areas in the Pokrovsk direction, and there they are actively deploying an incredibly large number of their unmanned systems positions. However, in principle, the defense forces are fully prepared for this. And in principle, one of the main tasks of our unit is precisely the detection, precise locating, and the direct assisting of our forces. This involves targeting, making real-time adjustments, and ultimately destroying enemy UAV positions.
There are already 10,000 hryvnias more in the account for your fundraiser. Friends, thank you to everyone who responded so quickly to this cause. To everyone who, for some reason, hasn't managed to do so yet, I urge you to join in to help repair vehicles that our fighters need to carry out their missions on the most active fronts of Ukraine today. Regarding tactics, the Russians have been at it for quite a long time. They are trying to improve their positions in the Pokrovsk and Kupiansk directions. But as we can see, so far this hasn't brought them the results they were at least hoping for. How are they trying to experiment with their tactics? How effectively are they learning from their mistakes, or are they learning at all?
From what I see, learning is very difficult for them. That's the first thing. Secondly, to be honest, they are currently trying to introduce very little that is actually new, let's say, in their ongoing attempts at assault operations. Therefore, at this stage, their main tactical approach is infiltration by small infantry groups, utilizing high-speed motorized vehicles and buggies with which they try to reach their positions as quickly as possible. This involves armored groups. At this particular stage, we hardly see them at the front, since we understand. Thank you. It is clear that the National Defense Forces have already successfully developed an advanced drone technology to such a significant extent that armored groups are no longer particularly effective and can hardly reach the positions where the enemy is trying to deliver their infantry. But in any case, the most important thing to understand is that the enemy forces simply do not stop their relentless advance. The enemy, every single day, tries to find gaps in our lines. The defense forces of Ukraine. At this current stage, however, they have not yet been successful in this effort. But I repeat, the Russian Federation still has quite a lot of resources, namely personnel. If we are talking about Pokrov, that's more than 100,000 concentrated there. Personnel. And in principle, we understand perfectly well that there are quite effective, well-trained units. Therefore, the most important thing here is not to relax and to remain as united and focused on defense as possible. And
we need to stay focused. Supporting the armed forces of Ukraine is something dear to us all. We can already see that almost 20,000 hryvnias have been collected for this fundraiser in just a few minutes of our conversation as part of our efforts. Let me remind you that we are raising funds for the repair of vehicles that are essential for improving logistical capabilities. The Defense Forces of Ukraine. Ira, please tell us, as of today, what does the logistics situation look like on the front line, and how far can these vehicles actually go, considering that we increasingly hear that ground robotic systems are taking over their role? After all, moving such large, visible targets near the zero line is extremely dangerous.
That's true, because we fully understand how the defense forces have, let's say, closed the logistics corridor with drones. And unfortunately, the enemy is also integrating such systems and developing them as well. Therefore, with each passing day, even traveling from one place to another in a vehicle like a pickup truck is becoming increasingly hazardous and life-threatening. Due to the fact that, first of all, there are an overwhelming number of sophisticated enemy UAV systems constantly patrolling in the air. Secondly, many of the access roads are being heavily mined. Thirdly, there are the so-called waiting drones, which the enemy is also actively using. But let's not forget that in any case, there are tasks that need to be accomplished. And the defense forces, despite the risks, still carry them out. They deliver ammunition and evacuate the wounded, so vehicles are still being used. Whatever it takes. A significant part is gradually being taken over by robotic drones, both ground and aerial. Because let's not forget that the delivery of ammunition, medical supplies, and food is also carried out with the help of heavy bombers. That is why the defense forces are trying as much as possible to switch to their use. Advanced robotic equipment, so to speak, is being used to minimize the loss of personnel, specifically during logistical operations.
Almost 40,000 hryvnias have been raised during our conversation for your fundraiser. Friends, everyone who is contributing to the fundraising in support of Ukraine's defense forces, you are the best. Those who for some reason are not participating, I hope it's not because you lack the means. You have 50 or 15 hryvnias that you can spare for this cause, and it's not because you lack the desire to support the armed forces of Ukraine, but for some strange reasons that you will now correct. And we are accumulating as many resources as possible, specifically within our capabilities, within this fundraising effort, so that the Ukrainian armed forces can be more mobile in the areas where they need it. Ihor, and regarding the seasonality, the greenery is already in full swing. You warned that this lush greenery could expand the kill zone. How does this logic actually work? Opportunities arise for more effective defense and more effective offense under these conditions and in the context of total drone dominance. On the battlefield,
Greenery, first and foremost, as we clearly understand, is a very effective and vital means of camouflage, which allows both our own forces and, unfortunately, the enemy's forces to approach as close as possible to the strategic positions of the Special Operations Forces, and, accordingly, due to these specific factors, to significantly expand the overall kill zone. There have already been cases, we are gathering and observing them. This is the destruction of equipment and positions at a distance of 30 to 35 kilometers. For now, these are isolated cases, but I repeat, technology does not stand still, and the expansion of this sector and this kill zone will inevitably continue. That is why the defense forces are actively developing, training, and integrating protection systems specifically against aerial targets. This includes the training of mobile fire teams, the development of anti-aircraft drones, and layered defense specifically against drones. Because we clearly understand that it's not just about hunting for wings, but that technologies for shooting down and destroying FPV drones, which also cause a lot of trouble and destroy a lot of equipment, are actively being developed. A lot of this destruction happens with the help of FPV drones. That is why we have a very clear understanding that whoever integrates new technologies the fastest will hold the strategic advantage on the battlefield. That's why the defense forces are actively developing. We cooperate with many different enterprises, specialists, and scientists who, day by day, even if only gradually, are making certain contributions. Technological advantages which give us an edge over the enemy on the battlefield.
a strong connection between the rear and the front also gives us an advantage over the enemy, which is evident in particular in how many resources the rear accumulates and transfers to meet the needs of the front and within our own. With the collection, we already have close to 40,000 Shrivnias. We managed to raise enough for the repair of 2 vehicles, and we literally have just a minute and a half left to increase this amount. Once again, I emphasize 5, 10, 15 Hrivnias, everything that... It's better than just doing nothing and expecting that something will change. Ukraine is supposed to win by some magical means. Ukraine can only win thanks to the tremendous work done by all the people in this country. It's with these small steps that great things are accomplished. Ihor, I also want to ask you about the Ukrainian mid-strikes. We can see how this story is developing. Russian vehicles and military equipment are burning far away now, deep in the temporarily occupied territories of Ukraine, in places that used to be relatively safe territory for them as of today. Is there enough reason to say that this is already directly affecting how the Russians are fighting on the front line?
Absolutely, because this is about cutting off. This brings us back to the previous question. This is about cutting off logistical routes. Logistical routes. It's not just about access to the front line. Logistical support zones, that's movement, let's say, over many kilometers, sometimes more than 100 kilometers away. A base from which the first vehicle sets out carrying something. Therefore, the successful destruction of any Russian military equipment at a distance of 30 kilometers or more is, of course, effectively severing and cutting off the enemy army's vital lifeline, preventing them from the timely delivery and supply of essential resources, be it ammunition, food, fuel, or even critical medical supplies. All of these strategic developments, of course, have a major impact on the enemy army. Firstly, there is the significant physical loss of equipment and personnel, and secondly, let's not forget the psychological aspect, which, let's say, has a profoundly devastating and lasting impact on the spirit of the occupying army. This is because they fully understand that there is not a single corner on our territory where they can feel even remotely safe or secure. And this, accordingly, is psychological pressure on them as well, and consequently, our guys, let's say, are very happy and become much more active when they see that things are being destroyed, even in the enemy's rear. There are a significant number of targets and a vast amount of resources, which, in principle, is gradually wearing them down. This affects the very first ranks and units who are fighting on the front line. We can clearly see that armored vehicles are scarcely being utilized at all now, because physically they are almost completely unable to reach the front lines anymore. Because as I said, if earlier they would spot it 15 to 20 kilometers from the line of contact and destroy it, now it's 30 to 40 to 50 kilometers. If I'm not mistaken, a couple of days ago there was a report that it was destroyed. 2 or 3 tanks at a distance of 70 kilometers from the line of contact, right at the repair base, most likely the enemy's. So the enemy is actively feeling the weight of these losses. It is slowly draining their resources. And all of this gives hope that Ukraine will definitely win this war. But will it happen as soon as possible? And lasting peace will come. But a peace that is truly honest and just, the kind that the citizens of Ukraine rightfully deserve.